welcome to the Dental Hygiene Basics podcast. My name is Dana. I'm your host. I'm excited to be here. And today we're going to be talking about GPA. Now, if you're listening to this, you may be thinking, I'm already in dental hygiene school. I don't need to worry about my GPA. Or maybe you are applying and you're like, okay, this definitely applies to me. I need to know what's going on with the GPA. But really, wherever you're at, I want you to understand that your GPA is your metric for success. Your GPA is actually telling you how you're performing. And that is really one checkpoint that you're getting at the end of every semester to let you know if you're on the right track. So when we think about improving and getting better, right? The main quote that I always think of is what gets measured gets improved. Or the way I like to say it is what gets measured gets better. If you're tracking something, if you're tracking, your calories, then you're improving your diet, right? And you're going to see weight loss as a goal oftentimes. If you are tracking your steps, why are you tracking your steps? Okay, better mental health, better physical health. We see benefits when we track things and when we have goals that we're working towards. And I think that people don't take their GPA into enough consideration. When people see their GPA at the end of a semester, they just think, well, I got what I got. Instead of taking the opportunity to reflect and think, how can I do better next time? Or what didn't go well? And maybe what could I do better again next time? Going back, maybe not through the same class, but maybe through the same class. I mean, if you've been there, if you've had a class that you failed, sometimes you have to go back and take a class again. This is where you use your GPA for metrics. Metrics are really important for your success. So if you're looking at your GPA and you're like, yeah, it's fine, it's good enough. Okay, but could it be better? And what would you have to do to be better? The main reason that I say that is not to push people to be, top performers like psychopath, type A, like myself. What I'm trying to push you to do is take an opportunity to see where you can grow and improve. And I want you to be the best version of yourself. And I want you to take the most away that you can out of these classes. I'll give you just a quick little example. Whenever I was in school, I was taking physics and no desire to do anything physics related in life, but I do use physics as a dental hygienist. Keyword fulcrum. If you're not in dental hygiene school yet, you're going to know what a fulcrum is, but a fulcrum is physics. Okay. I think that's the only thing I understood from my physics class, which is a good thing because it went on to actually help me once I got into dental hygiene school. But with that being said, I knew right off the bat, I was struggling in my physics class. My very first exam, before I even took the exam, I should have already been in the instructor's office. I wasn't. I didn't know what I was doing. I walked in this exam knowing I was going to fail. And guess what happened? I failed. I got a 55 on it. I tried. I mean, I studied, but I didn't get any help. So after the exam, I go into my instructor's office and I say, listen, you're talking and it's a different language. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't think I'm going to go on to be successful in this class. And funnily enough, the instructor said, well, let me pull your exam. He pulled it up. He's like, you got a 55? Well, heck, that's better than most people scored in the class. That's pretty good. I ended up staying in the class and getting a B in the class. Like I said, I did not learn one thing in physics except for what a fulcrum was out of an entire semester. This is actually maybe a terrible story where my grade in the class did not relate to how I was actually performing. But with that being said, I made a B. But think about that was the only effort I took. I took my instructor at face value and they said, hey, that's better than most people. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm okay. I didn't trust my intuition. I did not listen to my gut telling me, you don't know what you're doing in this class and you're not going to take away anything from it. If you're in dental hygiene school now, your classes are directly related to what you're going to be doing in your career. So if you are hitting that moment and that intuition is telling you like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Okay, I want you to learn from my story and say, we got to make a change. And you keep going in there and talking to your professor until you get it figured out. Okay. Don't be like me and just ride it out and see how it goes because there would have been a real chance that I would have just straight up failed that class. Apparently they had a grade on a serious curve because I know I did not score higher than a 60 on any exam in that class. Okay. With that being said, your GPA, your grades are a metric for how you're performing, how well you're managing the class, the rigors, the difficulties. So I want to talk about GPA for that reason. When you are applying to dental hygiene school, the first thing that they are looking at is your GPA. I hate to break it to you. If you have a stack of people, 10 students with a 4.0 GPA, and then you have 5 with a 3.5, and then you have 2 with a 3.0, and then you have 15 with 2.8 or less. right off the bat, which ones do you think are going to be looked at first? The ones with the higher GPA. Which ones do you think are going to be offered a slot into the program first, the higher GPA? With that being said, I want your GPA to be as high as possible because when we think about metrics, that means that you performed successfully in these classes. You learned not only the material, but also how to study. You learned how to ask for help. You reached out to your instructors, right? And you figured out the collegiate process. That is what your GPA is measuring. It's not just your overall level of smarts. People who have 4.0 GPAs come in all different shapes and sizes, meaning they may just be incredibly smart or they may have had to freaking suffer their way through it, claw tooth and nail, study, all night long, tutoring hours, seeing their instructor 2 or 3 times a week. That shows that you can do it, right? It doesn't matter if you had to claw your way to an A in the class, you got the A. Why? Because you learned how to use your resources, you learned how to be successful. All of those skills you will take with you into dental hygiene school. So you don't really want to learn those skills while you're in dental hygiene school, right? You don't want to be struggling through that because dental hygiene school is your big kahuna, right? Like that is your pathway to your career. We want to try and work out most of those kinks early on. And I'm hoping that by hearing me say that, if you're in your prereqs, you're working on that. Regardless, I mean, all of us had to figure out the ropes in dental hygiene school. Okay. So if you're working your way through it right now, seriously, don't stress. It's okay. You can do it. But again, part of your metric, part of realizing if you're on the right track is your grades. And if they're not showing up the way that you want them to be, or if they're just not showing up great at all, get the help that you need. Okay. Start figuring it out now. Okay. Moving back to your GPA as your metric for admissions. And I'm saying this because maybe you are applying to dental hygiene school now, or maybe you're in dental hygiene school and you're planning on going on to get your bachelor's in dental hygiene, or you want to get a master's or a PhD someday. These grades will matter then, right? So I don't want you to cap yourself now by thinking, I just have to get through dental hygiene school, because I want you to be thinking about your success in the future, right? You don't know what future you might want. So let's set you up for the best success now, not only with your current classes so that you start to grow in confidence, you feel strong, you feel empowered, but also you're setting your future version up for success as well. So I always want you to be thinking about your highest level. How do you become that? Right. Okay. Moving back to what I was talking about, your GPA, that's what they're looking at, admissions committee. If you have a higher GPA, it does bode better for you no matter what you're applying for. Science GPA, specifically when you're applying to dental hygiene school, is very important. They will look at your overall GPA, but your science GPA, like your anatomy and physiology, chemistry, microbiology, those are going to be very important because those are classes that directly tie into what you're going to be taking in dental hygiene school. So they do want to see that you performed well in those. As I mentioned in my last podcast episode, is it possible to get into dental hygiene school with a C in a class like that? Yes, I got a C in chemistry, but my overall GPA was a 3.461. I still think that's kind of on the lower end, but really it's not. We've talked to people on the podcast who have gotten in with 4s. We've talked to people who have gotten in with 3.0s, 2.9s. Okay. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but you have to set yourself up for entire success. The question I want you to ask yourself is, yes, could my GPA get me in? Sure, maybe it can. You should try, you should go for it. But I also want you to ask yourself, what have I learned through this process? And how will I step into dental hygiene school or the next chapter of my education with my best foot forward, knowing that maybe the first round didn't go as well as I wanted it to, right? I want to do better the next time. And again, it all just starts with awareness and thinking through, what do I want for myself and how do I want to achieve that? So, what happens if your GPA is not perfect and you're struggling to get into dental hygiene school? Well, if you've applied and you're not getting in, first thing you want to do is have a chat with the program that you're applying to and ask, what can I do to improve? Sometimes it's things you would not expect, like, oh, actually, students who take these extra courses get 15 more points, or students who do this many shadowing hours get 10 extra points, or whatever it is on the rubric that they're using to grade your application. So you really never know, something that may just be lurking in the background that could get you extra brownie points on your application. The other thing is you may need to retake science courses. If your science GPA is low, then you may need to come back in, retake those courses and bring it up. Now, something I think is important when we think about your GPA in relation to your entire application for school, there's a lot that goes into it, right? They're looking at your GPA, but that doesn't mean they're not going to look at the rest of your application. And I say that because I've had multiple times where when I was on admissions committees, we're going through the GPAs and we're like, this one, the science GPA isn't as high as we would like, or the overall GPA isn't as high, but they're still in like the low 3.2s. But look at what they overcame, or look at their story. They were juggling being a full-time parent, and whatever that might be. Put those things into your application, into your personal statements, into the questions that you're answering. Show them that you can handle this. The other thing is, if your GPA was bad or not great, I'm not going to say bad, if your GPA was not great and you are setting forth to improve it and you're coming back, and I've had students who applied and they had an entire transcript of multiple failing grades, multiple withdrawals. It looked like they were going through it. And then they came back and they ended up graduating with a bachelor's or something like that. And you're like, whoa, what happened here? Maybe the overall GPA still isn't as good as it could be, but there's a story behind that transcript, right? It's up to you to tell that story. Because if I just see that you had a semester where there's multiple withdrawals, multiple failures, and you don't kind of bring that up into your story, especially in a personal statement, or if they ask you a detailed question along something like that, it kind of leaves me wondering, can they handle it? I don't want any doubt left in the admissions committee's mind. So if you have the opportunity to explain how you overcame that and how you're ready to push on and become a successful dental hygiene student, take that opportunity. Okay. Don't just kind of try and let it hang and like hide. These grades aren't hiding from anyone. Okay. The admissions committees are looking at them. They're looking at your transcript. So make sure that if you have something like that, you just take the moment to address it and talk about how you worked through it and why you're a different student now. Okay. Beyond that, I want you to think about, when should I apply and when should I wait? Your GPA is an indicator of that. If you have a low GPA, I want you to think about all of your external sources. What's going on? What are your main priorities? Why are you struggling? Why is the GPA lower than you would like it to be to get into this program? Or programs have a set GPA limit. So if it's lower than that, we have to take a good hard look at what's going on. Why am I not being successful? And that could be help from a number of different people. It could be help from instructors, tutors, advisors. If you're not showing signs of improvement, you're not on the right track. You need to find some other source of help. Okay. So if you have a lower GPA and you are really struggling with your courses, especially the science courses, it's okay to wait a year or delay a year. Keep working, save up money, and keep getting help in those classes. If you rush it and you do end up getting in, I'm not saying you shouldn't be there. I'm just saying that it could make your journey more difficult. I'm saying that through years of experience. Okay. Years of seeing students who got in before they were ready, working with students studying for the national board exams who maybe progressed even through the program before they were ready. Okay. I've seen so many things that students struggle with. And I think the biggest lesson I've learned is it's okay to wait. My particular story, I did not start dental hygiene school until I was 25. I was a completely different human being at 25 than I was at 21. I had a different mindset. I had worked out those kinks in life and studying. I had figured it out by then. And it made all the difference in how I performed in dental hygiene school and beyond, right? Because again, the better you perform is really leading you into being the highest version of yourself when you graduate. I'm not saying you're going to know it all when you graduate. You absolutely won't, but you're setting yourself up for the highest chance of success to move forward and continue to grow and become the best hygienist that you're going to be. So at each part of the phase, we want to be the best dental hygienist that we can be. And that starts with a strong GPA in your prerequisites. And it's okay to not rush it and to take your time and to put in the effort and learn that material correctly the first time. The last thing I just want to leave with, remember, your GPA is a tool. It's just one thing in your toolkit, but it's not going to be the final verdict whenever you are being accepted into dental hygiene school. They do look at other aspects. They look at your work experience. Do you have dental experience? Do you have medical experience, right? Do you have an interesting background that could apply and help you to be better as a dental hygienist? What are your volunteering, your community efforts looking like? There's so many ways that we can boost our application if the GPA is not quite as strong. And let's face it, we're not all going to have 4.0 GPAs. I didn't. You may not. But what do we want? We want the best chance of getting as close to that as possible. And again, where does that start? It starts with self-reflection. So use your GPA as a metric. If you are going through it right now, if you are like, Dana, GPA is the thing that's holding me back, and I just don't know if I'm cut out to do it, I'm here to tell you that you are, but I also have a resource for you. Head on down to the show notes, click on the dental hygiene hurdle link, and we will send you a free download to help you tackle whatever hurdle you're at. It doesn't matter where you're at in the journey. This is going to be the best fit for you if you're having those doubts, okay? Beyond that, thank you so much for listening. Best of luck on your journey. Future registered dental hygienist. Have an amazing day.